What's up, superheroes? Welcome to the episode 9 of the Hustle Duo show, where together with my guest today, we will go deeper into topics like intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet. So today we will go super practical and cover topics like what is autophagy and why it is practically magic, how to break your fast correctly, and how to combine working out, exercise, and fasting, and further topics like that. So definitely very practical podcast episode about intermittent fasting. So my today's guest is Dr. Brady Salcido, who we're simply gonna call Dr. B. So Dr. B is a chiropractor and he's also a very big advocate for intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet. It literally changed his life and we'll learn how during this episode. And he's also helping other people to change their lives by offering courses like Intermittent Fasting 101 or 28-Day Keto Reboot. He also hosts an amazing podcast called Neuro Lifestyle and has basically everything what I just mentioned in his websites www.theneurolifestyle.com. So without further ado, let's say hi to Dr. B. Hey, Dr. B, thank you so much for joining Hustle Do a Show podcast.
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Definitely a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to talk more about the ketogenic diet, ketosis, and intermittent fasting. It's going to be, I think, a great supplement to the last episode we had with Dr. Mike Van. I think you also interviewed him. I saw him in one of your podcasts.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's cool.
He's a good friend of mine. We graduated with our doctorates together.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right,
yeah,
that's
we were
a coincidence.
In the same class. Kind of funny. Small world.
Small world for sure. No, his podcast just went out yesterday. I mean, by the time I'm recording this, so that's awesome. So you both ended up, kind of pursuing the same ideas and the same way, right?
Yeah, yep, exactly. Funny how that works.
So tell me, Dr. B, what's your biggest superpower at the moment?
I'd say at the moment, my biggest superpower is finding any possible strategy in my lifestyle to keep growing. I'd say that's my biggest superpower that I have right now. I've just become fascinated with how do I use every aspect of my lifestyle to make my greatest asset, my brain and my mind, better. And so I'm always looking for ways to hack my growth in any way that I possibly can, whether it's the way that I pursue my relationships and the way I'm going to sleep, the way that I eat, the way that I move, how I think about my day, how I start my day, how I end my day. I'm so focused and just weirdly passionate about finding every sort of lifestyle hack I can to keep this growing. So I'd say that's my biggest superpower.
Beautiful. I can relate to this so much. I'm also somehow now feel brainwashed. It's all I think about. It's about how to improve myself, how to grow. How to find these hacks, like you told. So, but tell me, what was it always like that, or something changed in your life?
No.
Why did you decide to kind of switch your mindset towards that?
It's interesting. I grew up as a really sick kid. I was sick all the time. I had a really traumatic birth process. I was always sick growing up. I had 6 or 7 rounds of antibiotics when I was a kid, which wrecked my gut bacteria. So I always had just a lot of issues. I had pneumonia twice. I had Bell's palsy. Once my face was paralyzed. I just always had chronic respiratory issues, headaches. I had difficulty paying attention in school. But it's kind of one of those things when you're in it, you don't really realize how much is affecting your life and how other people don't always experience the same way. And so once I got into college and I'm having these constant issues and people kept saying, why are you getting sick all the time? Oh, why are you this, why are you that? And I didn't realize that I was the only person who was struggling with that kind of stuff. Not only that, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. And so I finally just hit a breaking point where I was like, something's not right. Something is wrong. And when you finally figure out something's wrong, you want to go on this journey to figure out what's wrong. And so to be 100% honest, my first initial thought was I wanted to lose the weight because I'm in college. I want to meet girls. I want to look good. So I started going through all these different things of trying to figure out how to lose weight first. And I just always became so frustrated by the constant cycle of you lose the weight, but you never felt good. So then I would go back to where I was before. And then it was just constantly this yo-yo back and forth that I'm sure your listeners can probably relate to. And then eventually, as I got into chiropractic school, so this is 5 years after I made that decision that I wanted to lose weight, I end up hearing from Dr. VanDerschelden that he's trying this new thing called intermittent fasting. And in my mind, I go, that sounds ridiculous because we're in the middle of this nutrition class where they're telling us you have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And to not eat sounded like it would slow your metabolism down, but I couldn't deny that him and another colleague of ours were getting really good results doing it. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to try this for the weight loss benefits. And as soon as I tried it, it just became this light bulb that turned on. It was I didn't realize I could make weight loss so much easier while also feeling really, really good while I did it. I remember that was kind of the switch. The first 2 days, you're kind of expecting not to feel super great as your body's transitioning into that fat burning mode, that ketosis mode. But then at that third day, I woke up and I felt so clear and so focused. And I was able to get so much stuff done. And I was like, what if I could live this way 24/7? Like there has to be a way to keep this going. I can't go without food for the rest of my life. That's just not possible. But what if I could find a way to use my lifestyle as a way to make me feel this amazing all the time? Because I didn't realize how much I dealt with like things like social anxiety and how difficult it was for me to pay attention. So when you finally get a taste of what it's like to actually have really good focus and to feel really, really good while you're losing weight, just absolutely blew me away. And that became the onset of finding all this, the neuro lifestyle, intermittent fasting, the ketogenic diet, and all sorts of brain hack episodes that we launch now.
Excellent. Wow. Great story. Fascinating story. So it really, I think the key to your story, what I heard was that you were feeling good while changing, whereas a lot of attempts people do, and a lot of that's been taught in the last years, they were not meant to make people good, because it was somehow like, if you need to change, you have to suffer, you have to cut everything, just eat salad all the time, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
so it was not based on the positive emotion of change, whereas it seems like that's why ketosis and intermittent fasting, and keto diet and low carb diet and all these related things are catching up the speed, because they don't make you feel bad, right? They don't make you make big sacrifices. I mean, obviously, depending where you were, if you were, eating fast foods 24/7, then that's quite a big of a shift. But the results are also quite big. So like I said, I think this episode is awesome continuation from the last one we did with Dr. Michael, and we talked a lot about intermittent fasting there. More the basics, what it is, the benefits. And we touched a little bit of the concept of ketosis, and I would love a little bit, in this case, go a little bit deeper, So it's all
totally
about ketosis nowadays. So
it all is all about ketosis nowadays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what it is, I mean, we know the basics, but what it is from the basics towards a little bit deeper information.
Yeah. Okay. So here's some cool stuff, especially if you're talking about, maximizing your productivity, maximizing your brain potential. And I'll have to go back and listen to Dr. Mike's episode, because I think you just released it yesterday, right? I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet. But one of the coolest things that I learned so far, and one of the main reasons that I felt so good while in ketosis and I've been able to be so productive, is we know that when your body is in that state of ketosis, as you guys can listen in that previous episode, when your body's fat burning and it's using ketones for fuel, the initial way we found out about ketones was they were taking people who had epilepsy and they're having seizures. When they fasted and their body was in a state of ketosis, they weren't getting seizures. And what happens is we found that the brain, which was always thought to have sugar as its primary fuel source, we thought you need to have carbohydrates because that fuels your brain. Your brain uses the most energy out of any organ in your body. We thought that had to come from carbohydrates, which means 60% of your diet has to come from carbohydrates. Well, we now know that ketones can readily cross this blood-brain barrier, which is this mesh lining of your blood vessels that protects your brain. We know that it can readily cross that barrier, get into your brain, and actually fuel it with really clean, efficient energy. And we know that ketones are a much more cleaner fuel source than sugar is, and particularly for your brain. Now, here's something that's really cool with this. When your body gets in this state of ketosis, and especially when you combine it when you're using intermittent fasting, it stimulates something called mitochondrial biogenesis. And mitochondrial biogenesis is when your body increases more of its mitochondria. Now, mitochondria are basically your battery chargers for your cells. Now, yes, that's really great for your liver. It's going to help your liver detoxify better. That's great for your skin. It's going to help protect your skin. But when you get more mitochondria in your brain, that's going to allow you to focus better. It's going to allow you to be more productive. It's going to allow you more energy throughout the day. So when we're talking about the major benefits of ketosis, especially for your brain, I think that's one of the coolest ones, is that you're literally going to continually supercharge your brain. Your brain's going to be running off this like diesel fuel or jet fuel 24/7. That's just going to allow you to not only do the things you love and do the things you really want to do well, it's going to help your brain become more efficient in the future. So that way, when you get in these states where you want to become more efficient, you want to take it to the next level, ketosis is going to allow you to do that even more, because you are creating more mitochondria in your brain. You're creating more battery chargers in your brain, which I think is probably one of the first, one of the really cool things that I find, especially with ketosis. The other thing about this that I've been really interested in a lot more is detoxing the brain. I think that's a really fascinating topic, because you see all these cleanses and detox strategies out there. But one of the cool things that happens with intermittent fasting, especially when you combine it with ketosis, and I'm sure Dr. Mike talked about this. Did you talk about autophagy on the last one?
We didn't go that deep now, so we can go ahead.
No, okay. Okay, here we go. So the next thing that happens when your body is going through intermittent fasting and you get beyond the 10 to 12 hour mark, your body then finishes going through all of its sugar stores. It finishes digesting all that food that I just had. And it can finally switch over into, instead of being this constant growth mode, it can finally switch over into this rest, repair, recovery, cleanse mode. So basically, what the body does is instead of using all this energy to digest the food that you just ate, which takes a lot of energy to do that, especially if you're not eating really clean, healthy foods, basically what the body will do is it'll say, I have all this energy. Let's go through the body and let's do a clean sweep and see what needs to be repaired. Let's see what needs to be taken out. And it basically goes through and scans the body, and all these old cells that are damaged or sick that are creating inflammation takes them out. Anything that's been old or it's not working efficiently stimulates autophagy, which kills the cell, cleanses it, clears it. And this helps reduce inflammation dramatically in the brain, because the brain, I want you to think of inflammation like resistance for the brain. You ever had like that day where, let's say you had like a really bad night's sleep or something like that, right? And you wake up the next morning, you're just like, oh man, I feel really groggy. Like I feel like my brain just won't turn on. I'm like just struggling to get going, right? That is the resistance that the brain is feeling against inflammation from a poor sleep. Now, inflammation is doing that 24/7 underneath there. So if we're to help cleanse the body out and get that inflammation out of there, it's like going to a workout and I tell you to do squats with 45 pounds, but now I'm telling you to do it with no weight at all. It's a huge difference. It's a huge just relief of weight and stress off your shoulder. And it just allows your brain to be so much more productive while at the same time improving your health, improving immune function, also helping you lose weight, which is really cool. Autophagy is a great way to actually lose weight while intermittent fasting. And so I think those two combined, ketosis with autophagy, just radically transform not only your brain to make you more productive, helps give you more energy, helps you lose tremendous amounts of weight. That's one of the biggest things behind that, especially if you can get using good quality, healthy nutrients. It's just going to radically change your life, as it did mine.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly. So I think all those benefits are also part of the motivation, right? So it's part of when you see those benefits getting pretty quick, this is what keeps you going. So
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. It's a
that's
great point.
that's awesome. So also, I have two main things basically that gets you into ketosis. It's known, right, that is intermittent fasting. So you could get it through fasting, not only through intermittent one, or through ketogenic diet, right? So which one do you prefer, or do you do both? And what's your
I combine
opinion?
them.
You combine them.
I combine them. Yeah. So I fast for about 20 hours or so. That's usually about like my gold standard. I found the 16/8 classic method is a great way to start. It's phenomenal. That gets you the initial benefits. But really to take it to the next level, that's kind of what I've become super passionate about, is how do I take not just like the general sense of intermittent fasting, because I think anybody can go out there and stop eating food for, 16 hours and then eat within an 8-hour window. Anybody could do that. Like that's pretty simple. You just set up your schedule that way. But to take it to the next level to maximize your benefits, one of the things that I found to be the most powerful is to extend it. So I went first to 17 hours, then I went to 18, 19, 20. Once I got to 20 hours, that was like a game changer, like just so many more benefits. The benefits, I think, just compound and exponentially increase the longer you increase it within a certain window, of course. But definitely, like once you can get to those levels, me and Mike have talked about this as well. It's like substantial difference when you start building up, especially the 18 hours and above. So I'll fast for 20 hours and then I'll break my fast with a very ketogenic meal. So it's going to be a high fat, low carbohydrate diet, essentially. So pretty much what for me it looks like is I'll have some arugula with a little bit of tuna, and then I'll have some avocado on the side. I'll mix that all together and it ends up being a salad. I'll put olive oil, some lemon juice in there, and it's like the perfect way to energize my body, because I find for most people when they're intermittent fasting, the biggest challenge for many of them is when they break their fast. That seems to be the biggest game changer for many people, because if you break your fast the wrong way, all of a sudden you eat and then an hour later you're like, oh, I'm crashing. I got that 2 o'clock slump. I thought this intermittent fasting thing was supposed to give me more energy. What's going on? Well, it's because you're not breaking fast properly. Your gut, as soon as you're done fasting, so sensitive and receptive to what you put in it. So if you don't put the right things in, it's just going to tank your system. It's going to tank your energy. And so the thing when we're talking about what's the body going to be most sensitive to is going to be sugars, primarily from your carbohydrates. So if you break your fast, so let's say you have a sandwich, okay, well, that's a lot of bread. That's a lot too many carbs, and that's going to tank your energy. And so most people, when they have too many carbs, are going to tank. And so for me, I like to have a very strict ketogenic meal for that first meal. And then as I go throughout my day, because I'm pretty active, I'm working out typically once a day, sometimes twice a day. Usually during my end meal, people who are like really ketogenic fans out there aren't going to love me for this, but I'll save my carbs for my dinner time. And there's two reasons for that. Is because one, I need the carbs to sustain my muscle for all the activity that I'm doing, hiking and CrossFit and all these different things. But also the carbs are going to help increase my levels of serotonin, which is also going to help increase my levels of melatonin, which is going to help me sleep more. So for people who are trying to do a ketogenic diet and you're staying too strict on it and you've been too strict for a while, one of the biggest problems we see is sleep issues because you're not giving your body enough carbohydrates to produce enough melatonin, and it's affecting the sleep. So especially for someone who's active, that's a big thing there. I know I went off on a tangent on that one, but that kind of gives the basis of it. And for those who don't know what the ketogenic diet is essentially to get your body producing ketones. That's the whole objective of the ketogenic diet, is to get your body producing ketones. And the way you do that is you basically devoid your body of all carbohydrates and sugars as much as possible to force your body to start running off of fats for fuel. So when you think of a fast, you're avoiding food, but it's essentially avoiding sugars and carbohydrates. But as soon as you break your fast, if you're still not giving it the carbs and sugars that it wants, you will continually stay in ketosis and continually be in this fat burning mode that will keep you not only feeling good, but keep you losing weight even beyond breaking your fast.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So, the fundamental rule of the weight loss is basically consume less calories than you spend it, right? So
yeah.
how is it in your situation right now? So if your eating window is just 4 hours and you have ketogenic meal and probably have maybe, like I said later, a little bit higher carbs meal, do you still consume the norm of calories, or suddenly that number is not important anymore? Or I don't know.
I'd say I probably get close. I'm still definitely lower than what I would be. I think many people would be surprised at how well your body does off of less calories. Like, there's so much substantial research out there that shows we don't need as many calories as we think we do. And most of us aren't even working out enough to support the need for as many of those calories. But especially for myself, when you're eating a high fat meal, fat is so calorically dense. It is full of so many calories that it can sustain you easily throughout most of my day. And then plus, on top of the fuel your body's going to take from its own fat stores, I have no problem with energy. But I will say there is a difference here, and this is something we talk about in our Crash Course to Keto program and the Fasting Reboot program that we do. Is essentially there are kind of two phases, I always say, because I think a lot of people miss this, especially when it comes to the ketogenic diet. The first phase is getting your body to a state which is called being fat adapted. And fat adapted is when your body can actually finally create all the equipment in its mitochondria to burn fat more efficiently. And I think that's the first stage that's often overlooked. And this is when you need to be super strict on your ketogenic diet, because this is the part where you're actually building the equipment, and the less strict you are, the longer it'll take to actually get those effects, the longer it'll be through the keto flu as your body's transitioning through that state. But as I've talked with other experts on this before, once you get to that state where you're fat adapted, your body has all that equipment, you have much more flexibility in your diet to start including more carbohydrates. Especially if you're intermittent fasting, you're going to have even more flexibility with that. Now, I'm not saying we go out and we eat McDonald's, of course, but for someone like me who's, say, very active, I have what I call like carbohydrate refeed meals every once in a while. Now, it doesn't mean like every day, but that means maybe once a week, I'll just have one meal where I'll have like maybe closer to 100 to 120 grams of carbohydrates for that meal. And most people go, whoa, that's crazy. But I need to replenish my body's glycogen stores so I can continue working out at the same level that I did before. And so I always say there's no one size fits all, but the most important piece of that is getting through that first phase. Once you get to phase 2, there's so much more freedom there beyond just being the box of the ketogenic diet.
Got it. And those 120 grams comes from what source? Is it, I don't know, mainly bread or what?
No, so it's mostly going to be things like sweet potatoes. I'm going to use mostly high quality whole food carbohydrate sources. So I use things like squashes, zucchinis, sweet potatoes, things like that, because the main thing that I want with these is not only are they good sources of carbohydrates, they also have tons of vitamins, minerals in them, but also they contain more fiber, which helps sugar get digested slower. It's less of an insulin spike. So I prefer to use those more than, bread, or things like that. My body doesn't react well to gluten anyway, so I tend to stick to more of the whole food sources, and I'm sure many of your listeners would probably agree with that too.
Of course, yeah. Okay, makes sense. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Also, what is known at the moment in the market about long-term effects? So first of all, for example, do you follow this every day, or do you do 5 days and then 2 days? What's your schedule? And then the second part of the question is, what is known? If somebody implements this in their lifestyle forever, so 10, 20, 30, 50 years, is it sustainable lifestyle, or is it something that, maybe you should do for a couple of years and then you should kind of change? I don't know.
Yeah. In terms of fasting, ketogenic diet, or
exactly
both?
Like, for example, your lifestyle, are you planning to
My lifestyle,
sustain
yeah.
this till the end?
Oh yeah. So there's plenty of research that shows that intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet can really improve longevity. One, especially intermittent fasting has been shown to have tremendous studies and research done on longevity in particular, because not only are we helping the body cleanse itself and keeping it healthy, youthful, running at a good pace. Now, when it comes to the ketogenic, I'd say some of the main research that we see in terms of longevity and being able to do it long term comes in how it affects the brain and how it preserves and protects the brain and brain health. The only thing I will say in terms of the ketogenic diet that I think often gets overlooked is kind of what I was talking about before. I think sometimes we get so strict into our diet box, and this happens with any diet, not just the ketogenic diet. This happens with the paleo diet, going vegan, things like that. We get so stuck in one system that we don't always trust what our body needs in certain times. So there's times where, I will actually go off the ketogenic diet for a couple months, and I have the freedom to do that. But the great thing about the ketogenic diet, and this is what I love about the ketogenic diet, is because your body becomes so good at using fat, it is so much easier to break off and break back. So for me in particular, I started off when I was doing intermittent fasting keto, I'd pretty much go 5 days a week. But then I ended up feeling so good with it that I ended up going to 6 days, and now it's 7 days. Now I do 7 days a week of that because I feel so good while I do it. But when I go out onto a date night with my wife, or we go on vacation, I'm not going to go 100% keto while I'm out there, especially if we're going down to, Cancun. We're going to Costa Rica in June. Like, I'm going to enjoy some tacos. I'm going to enjoy some good food. I want to enjoy those things and experience the culture and the people and stuff without having to worry like, oh, excuse me, is that keto? I don't know. But that's the beautiful thing about having intermittent fasting, is it allows me more flexibility with that as well. So that's kind of how I like to do it. I don't like to be super strict in a rigid bubble, but it's always going to depend on what a person's goals are. If your goal is just to be healthy, of course, you have more flexibility with it, because you don't want to be so in your head about your diet that it becomes you. You want to have more flexibility with that to be able to sustain the goals that you have. And some of those will be, if you're going on vacation, you want to enjoy the vacation. You don't want to be so stuck in your bubble, right?
Yeah, you don't want to keep asking, where's those low carb tacos? I want those.
Exactly,
is
right?
This low carb? Yeah, exactly.
Is that low carb? Do you have pork rinds instead of chips?
Yeah. Awesome. So, obviously you have now also, like you said, sort of a luxury, to go off a couple of months, or maybe indulge in in food while you're on holidays, because you already reached that level, right? So I guess for somebody who's really fighting I don't know, obesity, or the weight loss is really not a problem, I guess they would have to wait off and probably, or until they reach the certain level. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So I don't know, for everybody who's listening, this sounds like freaking magic. You're saving time by not eating so often. You're probably even saving money by I don't know, eating
money,
less, right? Okay, maybe more healthy food usually costs more, but that's your health. Then your brain is working better. You're gonna live longer. You're gonna be leaner. I mean, this is certainly sounds like magic. Yeah,
it's a little bit of voodoo. I think there's a little bit of that going on in there.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me, this is also what you're working on, right? So you are by day you have your own practice. You are a chiropractor, but you also have a program running on, right? So you want to influence, not influence, but like, let's say spread the word about this magic, right? So tell me a little bit more about this program you're planning to launch.
Yeah, so we're planning to launch. It's called the Fasting Reboot System,
Hmm.
and I'm really excited about this one because it basically, as we were kind of talking about earlier, the 16-8, it's a great way to start. And anybody can go out there and start that. But the trouble becomes, how do you avoid the common pitfalls? Like, how do I break my fast? How should I work out while fasting? What are ways I can maximize that to heal my gut? Because a lot of people have gut issues now. How do I maximize that for energy? How do I take intermittent fasting and use the rest of my lifestyle to fuel weight loss? Because intermittent fasting isn't always synonymous with weight loss. There's certain things you have to do. And so the fasting reboot system basically walks you through that whole thing. I have, I think, over an hour and a half of videos that like walks you through every step of the process, the benefits, how do you actually schedule and plan those different things. And so that should be coming out probably within a week or two after we finish our conversation here.
Excellent, excellent. And what's next in your life in general? So, what are your goals?
Oh man, no, I got a lot going on. So one is the fasting reboot system. We also have another one that's out now, but we're going to be fine tuning it a little bit. It's called the Crash Course to Keto. We talked about that a little bit pre-show, and that one is over like 2.5 hours of video walking through the ketogenic diet. We also talk about how to combine the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting. That's been a really popular course so far. But for me personally, I really want to start taking things more into the brain space. Like the reason I start with intermittent fasting is keto is because that was like what changed my life. And that's what really got me started on this whole journey that I'm on now. And so when I first started this whole journey, I just said I wanted to start with those two things to be able to help people get the same results that I got and feel what I was able to experience. But now that I've kind of got those out there and we're getting ready to share that with everybody, I'm going to start taking it more into like the brain space now. So we're going to do more on how to teach people how to detox the brain. We're going to talk about more on hacking motivation. We're going to be talking about hacking happiness and different things like that, and working on a book right now. And I'm just really excited about all the stuff that's coming down. So that should hopefully be coming out in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Super, super, man. I'm excited for you as well, and I'm just like it makes me, talking to you, talking to Mike. It's like it makes me super hopeful. It's like it seems like now. This is a good trend, even though if, it might be a trend, productivity, motivation, hacking your brain, but, more of these trends, please, more of these of this kind of information, and, even if, what's our goal also that, even if we affect one person, we make one person's life better, job's done, so, and obviously you want to, achieve more and, affect more people. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I want to also get more tips because I'm still not doing the intermittent fasting. We are planning to start the challenge in mid-April, and I hope
Nice.
this will stick for the rest of my life, which sounds actually very big, but let's see. But as you're an avid CrossFitter, and you work out, you said daily, sometimes even twice a day. I mean that's crazy. I also work out quite a lot. So tell me, how do you combine? So what is a schedule? Do you usually
Mm.
work out before the food, or do you load yourself with carbohydrates? Wait a couple of hours and then you work out. What's the good schedule for you?
So usually what I do is I'll fast in the morning and then I'll have my workout at noon and then I'll break my fast right after. So I like working out while fasted. The only thing I found for myself, and I think probably others would say something similar. I'm not sure. Are you like a CrossFitter or doing any sort of high intensity workouts or anything
Exactly,
like
that's what
that?
I do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sure you probably experience the same thing. Anytime you start to do any sort of strength or power moves, I found ketogenic diet isn't always the best for that. I found that hasn't been as beneficial. So the nice thing now is I know if I'm going to be doing something that maybe combines more weightlifting, maybe a little bit more high intensity exercise with some weights, I will typically wait to put that towards the end of the day after I've had some food in my system, slightly get some carbohydrates at lunch, and I perform way better. It gets me more results. But if it's going to be just a classic high intensity interval training or aerobic exercise, ketosis is like insane for endurance. Like my endurance goes through the roof when I'm in ketosis. So intermittent fasting for me and doing a workout on that is insane. It's been so beneficial for me. And I don't know if you've heard of a company called Ketone Aid.
No, I haven't. No.
No, so they work with ketone esters. So you may have heard of exogenous ketones. They're basically a powdered drink that helps your body get into ketosis by giving your body ketones essentially. Exogenous ketones would be like or excuse me, ketone esters would be like exogenous ketone jet fuel. It like is nasty. It's like only comes in this big of a sample, and I think it costs like $100 for something like this. I got to demo it and try it out and do a test on it. You can find that video on YouTube. It's kind of funny. But like I went from, if you're measuring your ketones, I went from a zero point 0.7 to I think a 5.6 in about an hour and a half in terms of blood ketone levels, which is insane. But what I was telling the guy who, Frank, who owns Ketone Aid, is my workouts went through the roof. And he's been seeing the same thing with all his athletes, is when you're in ketosis, the body just ends up using ketones so well that it just fuels so many PRs in the gym and increased performance. And now athletes are starting to pick up on it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because I was, slightly worried. Like I said, we're gonna start, intermittent fasting in mid-April, and in mid-May, I have one of these, endurance race. Toughest Mudder is gonna be 8 hours race. So I was,
Oh, nice.
I was thinking, how should I do basically now? How should I prepare myself? So if it's an 8 hours endurance race, what I'm hearing is that actually fasting before is the way to go, right?
For
You at
that
least.
long?
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
for me, if it's like an hour workout, yeah. But if you're gonna do a long endurance race like that, I would get some carbohydrates in before, because that would just be a little bit too long. You'd probably run through a lot of your stores, and you may end up tanking if it's that long. So I'd highly recommend getting some good fat and good carbs beforehand. So if you are going to do that, I would just get high fat and high carb, because once you're in ketosis, your body's gonna be good at using both those fuels. Whereas if you haven't been in ketosis before, your body's only good at using carbs. So when you put fats and carbs together, which is double the fuel source, it's only going to use one. But now you're going to be in ketosis, your body's going to be able to use both, which is going to double your energy.
Excellent. Yeah. No, I think there should be also some kind of snack points, where we can
Oh, I'm sure.
eat a
Sure.
banana or a power bar. So that will
Yeah.
help me with the carbohydrates. All right, that's good. Awesome. Thanks a lot for the tips.
Oh, of
This
course.
this was a very big question for me personally, and I hope for also other people, who are basically want to do the same.
Yeah.
That's definitely beneficial. So the next thing in your life, what you mentioned, besides talking about ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, two things that literally change your life. You want to go more into productivity and brain hacks, and you even wrote a book, and I have the name here in front of me. It's called The Brain Boost: The 7 Effective Ways to Crush Stress and Easily Increase Brain Power, Focus, and Energy Fast. And you talk in that book about two modes of the nervous systems. That is a brake pedal mode and a gas pedal mode. Could you
Mm-hmm.
elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah. So our brain is constantly working in two modes. Almost think of it more like a rest and relax switch, or even your gas and your brake pedal in your car. One side of your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, is your rev up fight or flight response. That's your stress response. And it's not always a bad thing. This can be good in certain situations, like a workout, or you need to flee from danger or fight something. Those are good in certain instances. The problem is when we get stuck in that, we have a hard time getting to the other side of our nervous system, which is our parasympathetic. That's our brake pedal. That's the rest, relax, growth and development. That's where optimal immune function, digestion function is. And that's where predominantly we want to be leaning slightly more towards, is that parasympathetic brake pedal dominant, because we don't need to be in fight or flight 24/7. But what we found, and what we've done with people when we take their HRV in our practice, is most people tend to be stuck on that sympathetic stress fight or flight mode. And I want you to imagine like you're going on a hike or somewhere, maybe you're doing your Tough Mudder, and all of a sudden you see a mountain lion on the course. Your body engages in this neurological like fight or flight, and it's not thinking about immune system function. It's not thinking about digesting that food that you had earlier. It's not thinking about being healthy and cleansing the body. It's thinking about only survival. And when people are stuck in that subtly underneath without actually knowing it, you find that health starts to deteriorate, energy starts to deteriorate, fat loss starts to become more prominent, people start to gain more weight and just don't feel as well. And that's a significant shift that I think a lot of people need to make. And that's what ketosis and intermittent fasting can help with, is making that shift and starting to pump the brake pedal more to get the body better adapted into that rest, relax, growth, healthy neurological function. And that can make a big difference for your brain as well.
Okay. And speaking of productivity. What are your favorite things that gets you to the focus mode, into the deep work, that where you can, you produce in 2 hours so much output that you're even surprised by yourself?
Yeah, the big one for me is what I'll do is first thing in the morning, I wake up. So like if I were to plan like my crush it morning, what I'll do is I wake up early in the morning. I go do a sauna for a half hour, and I'll drink, water before, drink water after, take a shower, have a cold shower, and I'll be fasting this whole time. I'll drink my bulletproof coffee. And then as soon as I sit down in that morning, like I'm ready to go. Phones off. I turn off all phones. I turn off notifications on computer because, and that's a whole other topic of conversation we could talk about, is what your notifications and what your technology is doing to wire your brain for distraction. And so I'll put those all away, turn those notifications off, and I'll put on my favorite music. And usually it's music that doesn't have words. It'll be, I don't know if you've ever heard of chill hop music. It's basically just like, no, it's basically just like chill music with a beat. And I will listen to that and put on like a playlist for like 2 hours, and I will get so much done in that time span because you're blocking out all distractions, and the music helps increase your dopamine levels, which is going to help you focus more. Coffee's going to have the caffeine, also stimulates your epinephrine, which helps you focus better. And also the cold showers also increase your body's metabolism, but also increases the neuroepinephrine for your brain, which is going to help you just really intensely focus. So after you combine all those things in the morning, you have this ultimate morning routine where you sit down and you're like ready to go.
Excellent. So also, have you heard of this resource I use at least for, what kind of music do I listen for focus? It's called Focus at Will. Have you heard of that?
Never heard
of that's
Focus at Will.
Exactly. That's I've been using it for a couple of years now, and it's been really made a tremendous difference also for my focus, because that's exactly like that. It's a music without words, and they have different types. It's more upbeat, something is more chilled, something is classical. They have all sort of different styles, and it's really scientifically produced in a way that it should work better with your brain. So it's really,
this is cool.
Yeah, it's probably something very much similar to what you said, chill beat, right? That's what it is. But
yeah, very much. It looks like it.
Yeah, exactly. So check that out. Maybe.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah,
maybe you learn something too.
I know. I just did. This is cool. I'm gonna check this out.
So, what are the people that you seek this information from? Do you have some sort of maybe it's Tim Ferriss? Who are the people that inspire you to do stuff?
Oh, man, there's a lot. There's, one of the cool things about having a podcast, is I'm sure you could probably relate to as well, is like, a lot of people I think have this idea that podcasters make a ton of money. Like the podcast is going to generate substantial amounts of revenue. And, we both know that's just not how it is, except unless you're Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, Dave Asprey, somebody like that. Right. But for me, the podcast has been a great way to network and meet some pretty incredible people who I would never have access to otherwise, and really learn some tremendous stuff. And some of those people who have really inspired me personally are people like Rick Hansen was one of the first episodes I did. Dr. Dan Pompa, he's another guy, really, really incredible guy for detox. He has a whole system called True Cellular Detox that's really powerful, and the guy's super smart. Also, Thomas DeLauer, he lives 5 minutes from me. He's really big in the fasting and keto world. We've gotten to know each other a little bit, and he's a crazy smart guy. Dr. Will Cole. So all these people that I've gotten to meet through my podcast are just generally really smart people, and I've learned so much from every one of these interviews with them. But most of my learning, especially, just comes from research. I do these things every once in a while, probably like twice a week, where I just take about 2 hours and I do what I call deep dives. So I'll just take a certain topic that I'm interested in. So like it's been curcumin, and I'll just go through all the research, what's out there on curcumin, what's out there on DHA, and my wife will look at me like a nerd. I'm like, what in the world are you doing? Like just going through these stacks of research. But for me, that's kind of the way I learn a lot. And then I'll go to some of these other people like Dan Pompa or Thomas DeLauer and see how they're communicating that. Like what pieces of it am I missing that's going to help somebody figure that out better, if that makes sense. And so I gather not only information, but just ways of communicating and helping more people, because we can know all of the best stuff in the world and have all the information possible. But if I can't communicate to people who really, really need it, then it's not worth it.
Of course. And how do you choose the topic to, because there are a million things you could
Oh
learn.
my gosh.
How do you prioritize which is the next topic you're gonna learn about?
Yeah, I don't even know. I think it's just whatever seems interesting to me at the time, and it's always changing. So for a while it was the ketogenic diet, for a while it was ketosis, then it was intermittent fasting, and then it was like for a while it was really big on DHA, and right now it's neurochemicals. So I'm really looking at neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So that's why we have these Instagram lives where we talk about how to hack happiness, how to hack motivation, and it's really looking at these neurotransmitters that play a big role in how we feel. Because when you think about feeling motivated or feeling happy, it's just a balance of chemistry in your brain. That's all it really is. When the study shows if this neurotransmitter is low, if serotonin's low, you don't feel happy. It's not because you're not thinking happy thoughts or you're not being positive enough. It's that your serotonin is low. And it's the same thing with motivation too. And so the more I kind of got into this, the more I'm like, all right, that's really interesting to me right now. How do I find out everything I need to know about that? And then kind of as I go through, if I find something interesting, like when I was really researching DHA for a while, all of a sudden I stumbled upon this article that showed curcumin can increase the amount of DHA in your brain. I was like, what in the world? That's crazy. I was like, I need to find out more about this curcumin. And then, I just kind of go on this rabbit hole for hours and hours. Yeah. But that's what happens when you get really passionate and nerdy about something. You just start doing these deep dives and it's what you want to do.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So before we go to the rapid fire questions round, last question, motivation. So what do you know about motivation now that you wish you knew before? What is that one thing that really helped you?
The thing that I wish I knew before was that your lifestyle plays a much bigger role in your motivation than you realize. I think sometimes we get in this thought of, I just have to feel motivated. I have to think like this person. I have to think like that person. And I think when you start to create a lifestyle that's centered around optimizing your brain health and your brain performance, you find motivation becomes natural, especially if you're in alignment with your core values. If you're pursuing something obviously that you don't truly care about, if it's just for money or it's just for fame, I guarantee no one's ever going to be motivated enough to get the job done. But if it's something that you're truly passionate about, like what you're doing, like what your podcast is all about, I mean, like your podcast is awesome. And if it's something you're really passionate about, you're going to keep going with it. You're just going to keep going in that direction. But what people don't realize is that even though you're passionate and it's in alignment with what you want to do, if your lifestyle is creating resistance, you will wear down and your motivation will go away. But if you can create a lifestyle that enhances your motivation, I guarantee you're not only going to get more done in less time, it's going to be more efficient and successful overall, in my opinion. So if I would have known that before, I think I would have saved myself years of trial and error and hard work that could have been saved if I just would have done the things that I needed to do in terms of my lifestyle to protect this and to keep me going.
Excellent answer. I can relate to that. So everybody who's listening, you have everything that you need in this podcast. You do the intermittent fasting, you get into the ketosis, you can go deeper, you can do even ketogenic diets, to get that body ready to kickstart your lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle, and that will have so many extra benefits that we already covered, but your motivation will come easier, So like probably what you mean is that it's just a common misconception that motivation is a skill that we can learn, and we can turn on through the brain power, and we just underestimate that actually it's not all in the brain. It's actually so much in the body, right? And like you said, there's so many, basically just hormones, just chemicals, serotonin and everything like that. That's the more happy you are, the more motivated you are. And it's easier to be happy once you're healthy. So it's all
exactly.
It's all related. All right.
Exactly.
Awesome. So. Before we say goodbye, let's quickly go to the rapid fire round.
Let's do it.
Da 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 da. That's the little music to the rapid fire round. All right. So, I think we covered already a lot, the answer to this question. But still, what's the personal habit that made you a better person? And let's try to think of not intermittent fasting or a ketogenic diet.
So the habit that made me a better person, I would say authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
This is the habit that made me a better person. Doing things for for myself and what was truly for me, not trying to mimic somebody else or not trying to be somebody else or do something for somebody else, but doing something that was authentically for me and for what I felt like I was put on this earth to do.
Great answer. Great answer. The internet resource that made your life more simple or efficient, and ideally something less known.
Yeah, I would say, kind of as we were talking about before, unhacking my tech was one of the best things I've ever done. I learned that from Darren Hardy. And what he found was that there was research out there that showed every time you get distracted, it takes you on average 3 minutes to get back into your focus. And over the course of a day, it was wasting this one company over 2 hours per person per day, which is just insane. Just insane. Or I think it was 2 hours per week, maybe even more. It was something, I'll have to look back at the research, but the research was just crazy. And so I just said, like, I wonder how much more I could get done if I just set certain times to look at my tech, to look at my notifications, to look through email. So now instead of having it on me, I will put it away. And then only at specific times will I actually look at my phone and look at my Instagram, all that kind of stuff, and catch up on the world. And that's been, not so much of a resource, but just a habit that's made a big difference for me that many people probably wouldn't think would be helpful. But I guarantee it makes a huge difference.
Awesome. So it's basically unplugging from the internet, right? And that's also one of the challenges we have. It's called the 21-day unplug challenge, and this also promotes
nice.
Unplugging from distractions and basically internet, and basically making your smartphone stupid, making your laptop a typing machine instead of this deep black hole of distraction. Right.
Those challenges are a cool idea. I like those a lot. Those are cool.
Awesome. Yeah, we hope it helps people, to kickstart, to build a platform where they could build a better life. 21 days is usually easier to commit to than a lifestyle. Great. Yeah. A newsletter you don't delete that you actually open and looking forward to receive.
What's funny is I don't subscribe to any newsletters. None. Yep. So there's absolutely zero, but there is one, like the only, I could say, thing that I would actually open if I had it coming in regularly would be like my podcast episodes. Those are the ones that I regularly will listen to. And usually like the person I listen to the most is Tim Ferriss for the most part.
Yeah. That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will definitely put those show notes as always. Those links in the show notes. So link to your podcast, the book, to amazing course. It's going to be launched in 1 or 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be up in the air once we publish this. So everybody can just find all those things right there. And before we say goodbye, what are the best ways to contact you?
You can reach me at theneurolifestyle.com is one, but I'm pretty active on Instagram. I find that's like the best way for me to connect with people has been through Instagram. That's actually how we probably built most of our following. How people have found me is through Instagram. I'll regularly go on there and just do live videos just talking about whatever people want to ask. And that's a great way to get in contact with me. So feel free to reach out there as well.
Instagram is the way. Awesome. I will definitely put the link to your profile there as well.
Thank you.
Dr. B, that was amazing. Really, you inspired me. Like you said, podcasts, I just love podcasting. It's just, it's not about financial, it's more about learning. So thank you for sharing the learnings. I hope for everybody who listened also they learned a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You're awesome at this.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Dr. B. If you want to get the show notes of this, simply go to hustleduo.com/Brady. And of course, if you want to learn more about intermittent fasting or maybe even sign up for our 21-day intermittent fasting challenge, you can do that by going to hustleduo.com/IF, which is short for intermittent fasting, of course. And finally, if you like this episode so much, I hope you can post a review. It will really help us. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for a new episode every Thursday. So for now, I say thank you and goodbye.